It is Bones, and welcome to a pretty quick little repaint video. Now, I have been working on this for a couple of days, and it is the Rebirth Superman from McFarlane's DC Multiverse line. Now, I was pretty unhappy with the painted on lines that they put without changing the sculpt of the boots. So that was my main negative of the figure that I wanted to work on. But I did make some other changes, so let's go ahead and take a look at them. Now, I did think how to tackle this issue of the boots, and come to find out when I heated it up, actually the boot trim was a different part from the boot. So I was able to actually cut it and slice it off. And then I went ahead and inverted both, like the little, I guess you could call them chevrons that were left after I detached it. And then I wanted to glue them, but pointing upwards to give you that traditional boot shape from the Rebirth Superman. Now, my only problem after doing this was that I had some gaps there underneath the trim. Basically, I haven't been using epoxy for a long time. I barely started using it, so I'm learning about it. But it has been a pretty cool tool in the recent customs that I've been doing, and I'm sure the more I do it, the better I will get at it. But for a first time trying to use it to like re-sculpt boots, it came out okay. Now, I was able to fill in the gaps with the epoxy sculpt, let it dry, and then I did sand it and then repaint it. Now, another thing I had a little trouble with was the actual red line of the trim of the boots, and that is because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to just have a thin painted line or actually a little bit thicker, kind of like sculpted looking paint line. Because if you do get different references from statues, the comic, other figures that have been released of the Rebirth suit, some have just a thin line and some have a thicker line. Some actually have a whole sculpted, triangle shape up there. So eventually this is what I went with, a little bit thicker line, but it actually narrows down. Like as it goes around the boot to the back, it narrows down to a thin line, and then it actually disappears like on the back side of the boot. So I was able to get that cool little, transition that it makes from like a thicker line to like a thinner line. So that came out pretty nice. So finally, when I was done with that was probably the hardest part of the boots. I did go ahead and attack the rest of the figure. Let's take a look at him. Once we get past that first little hurdle, let's go into the head. Now, one thing I did not like is that they painted the face a little bit more, but I thought it was a little bit too much paint, like around the eyes and on the cheekbones. So I actually, after a couple of tries, I was able to match the color, which is like a paler skin tone. A little bit, just a little bit more pale. Finally, I did match it, so I actually colored like around the lower part of the eyes and some of the on the side of the cheekbones, and then I was able to seal it. That way, it gave it a little bit more glossy look, so that the paint wouldn't look. Because before the paint, it was like really sticking out as like a matte, tone. But once I sealed it, it gave it like a glossy shine, which helped it to mix in with the original paint. I actually put a little bit on the neck as well, just to, match it up a little bit in the tones. And then continuing that skin issue, I went ahead and tackled the hands. Now, obviously, I thought that the two big jumbo fists that they put on him were just too big and distracting. So I went ahead and put one hand, the left hand, like a palm, more like for flight poses and stuff. And then the right hand is a little bit bigger fist, like a medium-sized fist. So it actually matched in the scaling. It matched, but what was different now was the skin tone. So I had to go ahead and use that same paint that I had left over from detailing the face and the neck, and I actually went on to the hands, which really matches up nicely now. And then I also changed the ball joint from the wrist, because I don't know why, but it just depends on the figure. But sometimes if they're colored, it looks good, and then if they're skin tone, it like sticks out too much. But for some reason, for me, the skin tone ones on this figure actually make it look really good, and they transition well. You know, from the wrist to the hand. Now that brings me into another change I did, and that is that the trim around the wrist of the figure, it was just painted a regular blue. And if you look at your reference pictures, it's more, there's two versions. One is a more silver, and then one is a more like blue metallic. Now, I did first paint it the blue metallic version, but what I ended up seeing was that it didn't give it no contrast. It like you went from dark blue right into that blue metallic, and I didn't really like the way it looked. So I added more silver. But then I thought it was too silver. It looked more like wristbands or something. So then I I had to go back and make another mix. Now, on the camera you can't really see it that good. I have noticed this, but it's actually a silver and it has a blue hue to it. So here in my hands, looking at it, it actually looks like metallic blue, but with more silver in it. So it's more leaning towards the blue than the silver. Even though on camera I know it looks silver, but actually if you have it in hand, it has that little blue hue that I was looking for. But it actually really adds to the figure, and that's just a little detail that taking the time to paint these, accents really helped the figure out. So pretty much the rest of the figure is the same in the articulation. So I'm not going to go through that, but it's basically, looks good the way it is. Moving down to the boots, that was the main issue I had. And now, of course, he has the pointy boots. I matched the paint for the blue, and then you have that red trim, which actually makes them look a lot better, in my opinion. And then the only other difference I did was on the back, I did add the yellow S just to finish them off and make them a complete figure. One final little thing is I did also do a little bit of work on the hair. If you look at it now, it's a little bit more satin finish than shiny the way it was, and added a little bit more strips of blue. It looks good. It looks good. Now, before we go, let's take a look at him actually compared to some of my other basic Superman figures, which would be the original Superman 1000. It's a really hard decision between these two, but I guess you could have the best of both worlds, which would be your classic, more leaner physique Superman, and then a newer era, more bulky Superman. They both look very good. Then I want to bring out the different grimacing Superman that is actually based on the Superman 1000 body, but it came in the 2-pack with the Devastator. But this gives you more options, if you want to take pictures or whatever. You have the regular face, and then you have a more grimacing face. Really cool little addition to the collection. And then let's go ahead and bring out my custom Superman that I made from using actually all these body parts to make this custom one, that I actually added the yellow S on the back as well. And he's really by far one of my favorite customized figures that I've done. Pretty awesome little Superman collection going here. I did put them all on flight stands just to give them some flight poses. Really difficult decision. If I were to have to choose, this one's the Rebirth one that I just finished is really growing on me. I just like the way he looks, especially in hand. It just looks really awesome. The way I took off some of that excess paint that I thought he didn't really need, and now he looks a little bit more a toned down version. Really happy with all these Superman. Gonna take me a while to figure out which one of these two customs came out better, but really happy with both of them version, the classic Superman version, and then a more Rebirth new era Superman. But anyways, guys, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.